the narrative and delete racial inequality in the workplace.
Today we're here to interview one of my colleagues, a super BAME, Ollie.
Hey!
So I was hoping we could start with just a question around, I guess, your background and your personal experiences. And given your remarkable achievements, I remember the under 35 award and your continual rise and soaring in your industry in space and craft. Can you help us with a journey representation of how you got to this place and what are the subtle, I guess, nuances that drove you to becoming this person that you are?
That for me is always an easy question to start with, because I think of my parents. And I think I really appreciated actually what they had gone through so that I would have all these opportunities when I was about 16. And I remember nearly being in tears when I was doing, I was 16 and I was doing my work experience for a week. And here I was, I had to go to work, I had to get on public transport and actually go to work and work with other people and be told what to do. And that concept for me of, wow, taking myself out of my bubble of home or school and working with people. And that was really the first experience of seeing so many people who just didn't look like me and feeling, having some form of inferiority complex naturally, really gave me a taster of appreciation in terms of what my parents had gone through in order to give us the better opportunity. And what I mean by that is my parents are both from Nigeria. They came over to the UK as immigrants in the 70s. Went through education, all the things that they thought counted to get through life in the UK. So masters, doctorate, you know how it is being Nigerian. So as a kid immigrant, seeing my parents go through that and also seeing them move away from locations in London, which actually had many people who looked like me, and bring us to an area where we grew up in Wimbledon, where no one looked like me, and my siblings, and one of 5, but they believed that bringing us up in Wimbledon would give us more opportunities. So the fact that they went through that conscious journey to even put themselves in situations where they would be the immigrants on the street and look very different to their neighbours, just so that we could have a better upbringing, I think has always cemented in me. And other things that my parents did, particularly my dad, is really instill in us the notion of hard work, and to the point where we had whiteboards in our office, at home, and after school we would have extra lessons. And the notion was, you have to work harder than your peers. You cannot wait. We're all, 5 little heads just, waiting to be schooled after school. And I think that has always stuck with me, that no matter how far I go, I'm not comparing myself to anyone. Actually, I'm comparing myself to my own abilities. And the fact that I had that mindset instilled early, that you can get to wherever you need to get to, but you need to be mindful of your peers, that you don't look like your peers, life may not be as fair, and you will have to go through those challenges. But I think setting you up early is so important, and that I think has really helped me get to where I've got to today.
Building on from the last question there, we naturally see inherent in our society these subtle micro behaviors that are inherently holding people back in terms of their progression. And these are systemic, subtle, and really hard sometimes to really point at. What would you say those are?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important point. Let's be honest, it's a really important point. And I think we have normalized certain behaviors, both in community and in the workplace. It's become normal to see somebody at the top who doesn't look like myself, or doesn't look like you, or doesn't look like somebody within our community. That's normal, to the point where we do see someone maybe in that position of authority or of power or of leadership. It becomes a how did they get here kind of story. And you know, who has helped them, who has given them a leg up, as opposed to recognizing that that person has been there is there on merit, or subtly potentially not necessarily seeing that person in that position of power as an equal to another person who may look like your stereotypical leader. So I think we have just normalized those behaviors. It's also inherent to me in, if I just look at the corporate world and how we, let's say how we structure some of our deals with our projects and our teams, we tend to, especially within consultancy, you know, we tend to review ourselves on certain aspects of a deal. Is this a good deal? Is it a bad deal? You know, how do we assess something? We assess it based on metrics such as profitability, the amount of revenue it may bring in, the amount of opportunities, strategic opportunities it may give in the future. But it's normal not to actually assess things based on diversity and inclusion and belonging. Those things have become normalized. You know, in terms of, could we actually be doing more around making sure that we're assessing certain projects based on the types of diversity, inclusion, leadership that we're bringing to the table? So unfortunately, the inherent systemic racism that you're alluding to in your question is, I think, prevalent in all aspects, quite frankly, or in many aspects of the day-to-day workings. And it's so subtle that it's just become normalized. And that's the thing that we need to tackle together.
Building on that, did you think there was any other key action or actions, maybe one or two, that could be done within society or specifically within our industry around technology in particular?
The first thing for me is the education piece. Educate your workforces, educate yourself as well. Don't rely on somebody else to educate you, but educate yourself. Get educated with the real challenges and the struggles that exist within this community, and not just the ones that you may see of that may be very visible, but also some of the things that we've just spoken about in terms of some of the more subtle aspects of systemic racism and microaggressions. I think also the second piece for me is something that I'm really, really passionate about in general, and this is the aspect of advocacy. Advocating for someone and advocating for something and being a loud and proud advocate in this area. So we've all seen a number of firms have come out and they've given a number of strong messages around their support for the BAME community. But I think taking that to the next level and continuing to use your own voice, use your own platform, whether that's on social media, doing sessions like this where you're actually talking to people and saying that, you know, bad behavior is not okay and we're going to stand up together and we stand against racism, but having a very loud, active voice in social media and beyond is really, really important. It really helps to show other people that you care. And the last thing for me is invest. So your ability to invest in community, invest in businesses, invest in small corporations, invest in yourself, invest in others. Again, that could be through programs of training. Another example, what we've done at Accenture is we have we've launched an accelerator program for our mid-level managers. We've also worked in partnership with another organization to do something similar. So to really focus in on accelerating our mid-level managers, getting them through to leaders in our firm. We've also pledged to increase the number of managing directors within the UK and also globally. So we are willing to invest, and I think it's really important to do that piece to keep you honest as either an individual, a community, or an organization. So educate, advocate, and invest.
Again, another excellent answer. And I think what would be really valuable right now is actually to think about future super BAMEs, and what would you give them as one solid piece of advice that they should focus on?
So many different things come to mind. But if I was to pick just one, I think it's mindset. I've said before, you can train your mind to do what your body needs it to do. Your body is the one that needs to then catch up. But our minds are very, very powerful tools. And I think using that ability to actually say, yes, I may not see somebody who looks like me in a level of authority or leadership, etc. Yes, I may not believe that it's possible to break certain glass barriers, but actually, I'm going to tell myself that it's possible. And I think, of course, when you have that teaching from a young age, you get to the point where we enter the corporate world, and it's okay. I don't mind the fact that I walk into a room and I'm the only Black female, the only young Black female. It doesn't faze me. But of course, there are things that I've had to train my mind to do more and more of. And I think that is that is 100% a big factor of my own journey. And I've seen where people start to change that mindset and that belief of, oh, it's possible. I can do this. Yeah. And
so with that, I want to just say thank you so much for having this interview. It's been really insightful to understand a bit more about yourself and what's made you this super BAME that we all love and inspired by.
Thanks for having me.
It's time to reboot with superhero Black, Asian and minority ethnic professionals redefining the corporate world.